Well, now that you found a place to stay and you got your belly full, let's get back to fishing. My next guide I went out with is Scott Soisson. And Scott, along with Greg Grantlin, own a tackle store called Need More Tackle. And if you're on the south end of the lake, this is the place to go to get all your tackle needs. Now, Scott and I are going to be fishing, again, Carolina rigging in about 18 to 20 feet of water. The lake, what's this marina over here in front of us?
This is Powell Park Marina right there.
Not off to the point of Powell Park, and real small bass up in here, but tell us where we're fishing at in here. What's underneath it?
We're on this ridge, and I just kept drifting back on it and got out to about 23, 24 foot of water, and we're just on the edge of the ridge, and they weren't where they have been. They've kind of moved back on it a little bit out toward the deeper water, and just a ridge that runs right out here in the middle of the lake that not a lot of people know about. It's just places you find by looking at your depth finder when you're driving around the lake. And there's only one way to find out if there's any fish on them, and that's to fish them. And this is the edge of the ridge right here, and there's a little bit of grass and just some scattered stumps down there. And there's just a few fish laying in it, about 14, 15 foot of water.
Saw them on that graph just a few minutes ago that these bass are hanging off that bottom, Scott. I know they're down there.
I think he had another hole in his mouth.
Yeah,
there too.
Been caught not too long ago. No, Texas Park and Wildlife, whenever they do their creel studies, they look at those hook marks and see how many times the bass have been caught before. Seeing just how much pressure, I guess, they're putting on some of these bass. Worm on that one. Scott, we're throwing this Carolina rig for, I know a lot of people do know what a Carolina rig is, but for people who don't know what a Carolina rig is, and I guess it started in Carolinas, and I would assume it was until somebody can call me and tell me differently. But show them how you like to hook up your Carolina rigs here.
Well, it's not a whole lot to it once you learn to do it a little bit. It's just, we're using brass on these. I don't think it makes that much difference. A lot of people like to make a little noise in the brass with that glass bead on it. But this is a 1/2 ounce brass sinker with just a red glass bead on it and a number 7 swivel. I like to use a pretty good sized swivel, not that you ever break them, but cut you about 2 foot of your line off, and then you put your swivel, you put your sinker, your bead, and your swivel, and tie your 2 foot leader onto the back of it, and whatever hook you like to use. I like using an offset hook, because you have to throw this sometimes so hard. An offset hook will hold your bait on better than a straight shank will with just little barbs on it. And we're using this little zoom centipede that we've dyed the tails on, which if you fish at Rayburn from April and May, everyone knows about it. It's no secret. It's just we take and dye about 1/4 inch of the tail. And these fish through April and May, they really seem to like it.
I know it catches fish. I guess basically the idea of this is to have this lure just right up off about 1 foot off the bottom. It floats up there, doesn't it?
It just floats up a little higher. You're not, you don't have it on the bottom the whole time. It will eventually, if you're fishing slow enough, it will sink to the bottom, but it'll float it up off the bottom just a little bit, and they just seem to like that. A little bit better than sometimes laying on the bottom. Plus, when you're fishing deep water, this 1/2 ounce and stuff, Texas rig worm, you'd never get it to the bottom out here. Where this 1/2 ounce sinker on this thing, it doesn't take near as long, especially when it's windy like this too. It's a lot easier to fish. The wind is starting to pick up and the waves are really starting to roll in on us. And you know, when conditions get like this, I recommend getting off the lake if it gets too dangerous. There have been 2 cases where BASS has canceled their tournaments because of bad weather, and one was on Sam Rayburn. If you see those thunderheads come rolling in, and believe it or not, swells on this lake can get up to 7 to 8 feet. You don't need to be fishing in those kind of conditions. Well, we're going to move to another area of the lake called Tiger Creek. And I talk a lot about moving to areas of the lake and different creeks. I recommend getting a good topographical map like Fishing Hotspots. They show you where to fish on this lake, the depths of the water on different parts of the lake, and also just some good all-around information about the lakes that you're fishing on. I also recommend hiring a good guide. Scott Soisson's a good one.
And again, we're going to be fishing in an area called Tiger Creek. There's not as much wind in this area. Again, we're kind of moving around the lake to keep out of this old wind. Find another point, about 25 feet of water. Still catching these small ones up in here, Scott. Numbers-wise, there's a lot of small fish on Rayburn, but we know there's some big ones out there. But if you want to have fun, at least just catching the small ones, we know they're there. You know, the numbers.
We got, which is good. You need small fish, but it's nice to be able to catch a big one every now and then. It's just that the way the conditions are, and you can get that this time of year a lot. It's just awful hard to get out on them big flats and stuff where you have a chance of catching a real big fish. This boat's just not big enough today.
Not only that, but the cameraman would get everyone sick if they watched that video, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would. It would be tough.
Trying to get an area where we can at least catch some fish, some small ones off these points, 20, 25 feet of water. Here's one there. Yep. Catching them right up here. A little bit bigger in here, Scott.
Yeah, a little bit.
Longer fish anyway.
They're trying to get bigger on us. It's been a little fish day, but they're trying.
All right, here we go, right here. Found some brush up in here that I think these fish are suspended right off of it. But they're in here.
Yeah.
It's not as rough over on this side of the lake. Kind of want to point. What's this area called up in here?
Well, it is Tiger Creek. There's three creeks: Squirrel, Brushy, and Tiger up here as you come into it. They're all on the right-hand side coming into it.
This area's not fished a lot, though, is it?
No, mainly most people fish it when it's windy like this. It does, you know, there's some big fish caught in the spring back in the backs of it, but mainly it's fished when it's real windy because it does hold some fish, but it doesn't hold the population that some of the big flats do out on the main lake. But you can come back in here and you can get bit just enough to keep you busy.
Mm-hmm. Found some brush on the outside, and they seem to be holding that brush a little bit better too.
Yeah, this looks like an old, where the old crappie top used to be on the edge of this point coming out here. And there's just an abundance of brush down there, and they just laying in and out and around it. You drag it in front of one, he hits it.
Rock and roll. Scott, when did you move over here to Sam Rayburn, and when did you get the idea of opening up a tackle store?
Well, I moved up here in about 1981. I've been fishing up here since about 1969, and I met my partner Greg, and we both were guiding, and just kind of hard getting trips. And the gentleman told us if you opened a tackle shop, you'd probably get some more trips, and you know that's what we did. We opened the shop up. We've been there about 5 years now, and it's doing pretty good. There he is.
Still fishing off this point, Scott, and maybe we found a few fish up in here.
This is a fat rascal. Look at her belly on her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little better fish right there. But looking like we're coming off a ridge there between about 20, 24 feet, and seems like a lot of those fish are suspended right along there.
That one hit me on the way up.
Yeah.
I was reeling up.
We're getting some of those suspended fish. And it seemed to be hitting better on this windward side as compared to that other side over there, Scott.
Keeps the bait fish and stuff moving around over here, and they'll feed a little bit better on these windy sides. It's just a little harder to fish.
Scott, I guess just about every lake has its best months of the year. What about Sam Rayburn? When are really considered the best months to come over here and fish?
In the springtime, usually March. I would say maybe mainly from the middle of March till about the middle of April, but when you hear most people talk, they say just March for the springtime. In the fall, October. It's Real fun, real easy. But them 2 months, March and October, are probably the prime time on Rayburn.
And what about sheer numbers? All types of fish? When's
That's mainly April. We catch a lot of fish in just April. Not a lot of big fish, and but just the numbers can be outstanding at times. And you can catch a big fish or two, but the numbers are real good in April.
Well, March, I guess, obviously, like on most lakes, it's the big fish. It's when those girls have the big bellies on her, and really the weight comes up.
Yeah, that's right. And plus, they're a lot easier to catch when you only have to fish 3 to 6 foot of water instead of out like we are, fishing 18 to 27 foot of water. They're a lot easier to catch up there, and they do have a lot more weight on them.
Tap, 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 set.
Big old Kentucky.
Big old Kentucky bass. It's a nice size Kentucky. That's a good eating bass there. That's what I like to put on your dinner table. These are Kentucky bass. Now, how can you tell? Now, I know we talked about it before, the difference in these other bass and the Kentucky bass.
I can tell just by looking at them. One thing, they have a patch of teeth on their tongue right there, where black bass don't have those. They have all these spots down the side, not lateral lines, just lines down the side, and they're just more spotted than a black bass. He'll just kind of be all one color. Where Kentucky, you just got some spots on them. That's why they call them spot. They just look spotty. And basically, when you hold that up against a black bass, it's real easy to tell which is which. And they just don't get real big on this lake either, but fun to catch and good to eat.
Well, Scott, we've been all over this lake and pounded ourselves to death out there in the rough waters. We just can't get to the fish we really want to sometimes, and that's the way old Big Sam can be.
Yeah, when it gets like this, a south wind blowing 10 to 20 like it is, it's just hard to get across the lake to areas you need to fish. And you do the best you can, and we caught some fish, no big fish, but it makes it tough. People think Rayburn's, a great lake, which it is, but under certain conditions, it can be really tough to fish.
If you'd like to book Scott Soisson for a guide service, you can reach him at Need More Tackle or call him at 409-698-9430. Now, the third guide I go out with is Scott Springer.